Chapter 23 of Psychopomp Drive. Written by Janeen Leese-Taylor. Read aloud by Skaya Simaru. Chapter 23 Coal and Ash. The doorway into the realm of Hades was taller than an entrance had any right to be, clearly crafted for some sort of giant or titan. The huge iron gates rose from the ground like living sheets of twisted ivy, as if to replicate Jack's beloved beanstalk. Finley wondered if, like in that fairy tale, this one climbed all the way to the surface and towards the other world above. The gates creaked eerily as they slowly pulled apart, dust raining down on them from overhead. Hot air blew out of the entranceway like the breath of a dragon, the smell sour with rotten meat and old bones. Scrappy covered their mouth with both hands.
"Ugh, what is that?"
they whined.
"It's lucky we can't throw up."
Spectre sniffed the air next to them, seemingly unaffected by the ripe stench that was wafted out towards them like an invitation.
"The bodies in here are long dead," he remarked. "Lost souls who wandered off the path. The coals burned right through their dolls."
It was only then that Finley noticed the ground itself. The entire chamber was lined with rows and rows of the blackest coal and ash, each blazing with an amber-colored heat that sizzled and crackled, sparks leaping up to bite ferociously at the air. Skeletons lined both sides of the floor, twisted and gnarled in awful shapes that Finley tried not to think too hard about. Reichardt stood ahead of the group, examining the floor with narrowed eyes as he shone his light across it.
"There's no other way around it," he said to the cat Grim by his feet. "We are going to have to go straight through."
Abby squeaked, her ears perking up high in alarm.
"You want us to walk across hot coals? Are you insane?"
Reichardt hummed, pressing his glasses further up the bridge of his nose. They had begun to steam up with the heat.
"Our dolls should be equipped to handle the high temperatures."
Yeah, that didn't work so well for the other corpses here, Reich," Abby argued. "I'm kind of more worried that it's gonna hurt, like—"
She stopped herself, wrinkling her small nose in distaste.
"Hell?"
Spectre contributed with a knowing grin. He looked like a Cheshire cat, surveying the coals with something akin to childish glee.
"Here, let me try it out,"
Alvaro said as he pushed through the group. He bent down to pull off the socks and shoes on one foot, rolling up the bottom of his trouser leg. Straightening, he tentatively placed a foot forward, and then retreated, hissing.
"Ugh, yeah, no can do, boss man. That shit burns."
"Wait,"
Finley said, as he came to stand next to the older spirit.
"I remember reading something about this once."
He could feel the eyes of the other Amarini on his skin as he continued.
"The book said something about the color of the ashes, that if the ashes burn hot and red like this, it's made using cherry wood."
"I'm not sure how knowing the type of wood really helps, Molly," Micah replied softly.
No, it's science,"
Finley assured them. looking around the chamber. To the sides of them were small troughs filled with water, the surface green with algae. He turned back towards the ashes and pulled out his reaper.
It's like a puzzle. Watch.
Placing Sassy's metal head in the heat, he began to move and pat the ashes flat. The flare of their light grew ever brighter, transforming into an angry orange that pulsed on the surface of the path.
Coal made from cherry wood is bad at transferring heat. It has a really low thermal capacity. As long as you don't put too much weight onto your steps, it shouldn't burn you. That means we need to go slow. Walk instead of run.
Climbing up onto the side of the wall, he braced himself as he yanked off his socks and shoes, dunking both of his feet into the ice-cold water. He winced and withdrew them, green algae hugging his toes and ankles as he walked back to the front of the group. Facing the burning ashes, he hesitated, hoping he wasn't misremembering. It was a book he had read in secondary school chemistry class, after all. He wasn't about to tell the others this little detail, though.
Well, here goes,
he breathed. Inhaling deeply, he raised his head to look forward and began to walk. Steam hissed and rose as the water on his feet immediately evaporated upon hitting the dry ashes, the coal sucking the moisture away with each step. He could feel the heat below him, radiating upwards through the soles of his feet, but there was no pain. He let out a sigh of relief as he reached the other side of the room, stepping away from the coals with a shout of elation as he raised his hand to the others.
Come on over, he called. Just do what I did. Move slowly and place your feet evenly on the surface.
One by one, the Amarini copied him, dipping their feet in the water to follow behind when the ashes were cool enough to cross on. Saulo hopped up into Micah's arms, allowing himself to be carried for once. When he made it to the other side, Alvaro reached out and patted Finley's back with a large hand, almost knocking him back onto the coals.
That was some seriously impressive thinking, kid, he praised. A good job you were a bookworm in life, eh?
Indeed, Reichardt agreed. Come on, there are other doors to get through. Keep those keen eyes peeled. No doubt there will be even more challenges waiting for us inside.
Inside proved to be just as welcoming. Narrow tunnels meant that their taller companions had to walk with bowed backs, hunched over unnaturally as they moved. Arched and rounded with deep ribbons of stone, the tunnels were put together with etched-out boulders of gray and golden rock. Small lights hung along the center of each wall, guiding them forward and into the central chambers. The walls themselves were plain and unmarked by art or narration, and the empty spaces between the stones were dark with pulsing shadows, like the walls were the internal arteries of some great beast.
Aren't there supposed to be other gods here?
Scrappy asked quietly, the glow reflecting off the curve of their lenses.
Something doesn't feel right about this place.
Finley could make out Reichardt's gentle affirming hum ahead of them.
There are,
he noted.
Stay alert, everyone.
They reached the end of another long corridor, and the light spread out to fill the new, wider space. Finley guessed that they had finally reached the central chamber. Ceramic pots lined them on all sides, dark with dirt and dust. Huge cobwebs covered them like elegant white lacework. Embedded into the walls of the room were 5 huge glass canisters filled with water. 3 were clear. 1 was tinged with purple, and the final one was bubbling and red as lava.
These are samples from the 5 rivers,
Micah noted as she reached out a hand to drum a rhythm on one of the glass cases.
There are taps attached here. Looks like they were attempting to harness their powers for something.
This must be the place where the dolls are made,
Rykart realized, stepping forward to examine one of the clear containers next to his companion.
They use water from the sticks to make the artificial bodies withstand the in-between.
Abby nudged one of the wooden boxes stacked in the far corner, lifting the lid to peer inside.
Ryke is right, she added. There are pieces of broken dolls in here.
Oh, the room feels strange,
Spectre breathed, rubbing both of his arms nervously as he hopped on the spot.
There are eyes everywhere, hidden in the stone.
Alvaro turned his blue eyes towards the younger spirit, frowning skeptically.
Are you saying someone's got their eyes on us, Spookporka?
Spectre nodded slowly, looking around the room skittishly as his eyes began to glow.
I don't know where they are,
he whined. Finley felt the hairs on the back of his neck prickle, and he spun in place to look at the far wall.
It's coming from over there,
he said, his tail whipping at his back. His hand reached back for Sassy's handle, pulling the Reaper out to hold it in front of him protectively. Rykart appeared by his side in an instant, following the younger man's line of sight.
What is it? I don't know,
Finley answered honestly.
But Spectre's right. I think we're being watched.
The taller Amarini quirked a dark eyebrow at that and raised his head, pulling out his twin blades as he walked towards the wall.
Salo,
he called out, attracting the Grimm's attention.
Are there other trials when entering the realm of Hades?
The cat tilted his head thoughtfully.
I believe there were 3. The burning coals, the joyless hunt, and the lament. Aside from their names, I'm afraid that I have no further knowledge of what each task might entail.
Finley squeezed his hands tighter where they gripped the handle of his Reaper, something he did out of habit when he felt himself growing nervous.
Wait, they didn't even tell Grimms about the trials?
Saulo let out a sigh, reaching up a paw and drawing a tongue across it, cleaning his ear.
All I know is that each challenge is designed to draw upon your memories from the living world. They are for all spirits who want to enter the realm of the dead, not just for Amarini. Even I myself will have to take on the trials if I want to go inside. Your thoughts and experiences are your own personal hell,
Rykart quoted from next to them, his brow furrowing as he considered the words.
At the very least, the kingdom of Hades does not shy away from its intentions.
Saulo rose to his 4 feet again, making his way past them and towards the wall.
It appears that you were both correct in your assumptions, he stated.
He raised one paw and touched the surface of the stone, a purple glow radiating across his dark fur. The wall began to twinkle, glistening like a perfect diamond under a jeweler's scrutinizing light.
The entranceway beyond here has been concealed with magic.
The wall wasn't real,
Spectre sang, coming to stand at his right shoulder and clapping his hands together excitedly.
Only a Grimm's magic could dispel it. Now we can go inside. The real inside.
The wall faded from view, showing a well-lit tunnel beyond that was much taller than the rest. Lanterns dangled from the ceiling, swaying back and forth with gentle vibrations of the natural stone. Strange markings were carved into the sides, symbols that Finley didn't recognize.
The next challenge will be through here,
Sallow advised as he led the way.
I recommend that you all stay close. There is no telling what lies ahead.
Reichardt gave Finley a wordless glance before falling in behind their feline leader. His twin blades remained in his hands, the red of the ribbon bright where it joined them together. Pulling Sassy in close against his chest, Finley felt her familiar weight like a childhood toy, a protective comfort in whatever it was they were going to face next. He felt her buzz against his palm as her purple light signaled the spirit awakening within the weapon.
Wow, it has been a hot second since I was last here,
she remarked.
You were here before?
Finley asked her, surprised. The weapon's spirit hummed her confirmation.
When I died, I was brought in front of the big man Hades himself. They gave me 2 choices: suffer for my life's sins or serve a greater cause. You can guess which one I picked.
Is it rude for me to ask?
The weapon vibrated against his palms.
It has been so long since I was alive,
Sassy answered thoughtfully.
It kind of feels like it happened to somebody else, you know?
She grew quiet for a moment, pensive as Finley walked through the chambers alongside the other Amorini.
I wasn't a very good person, Finn.
The Amarini's ears flickered at her sudden change in tone. He had never known the spirit to be anything other than abundantly bouncy.
No one lives a perfect life, he consoled her.
Oh, I never had the chance to apologize while I was alive,
she continued.
I regretted what I had done at the end.
I'm sorry I can't chase away your guilt,
Finley answered her.
It isn't up to me to forgive you.
I know.
You're working hard to change things now, though,
he carried on thoughtfully.
And that's got to mean something in the end.
You can be very sweet when you put your mind to it, Finley Evans.
We're friends, the cat spirit reminded her. And I can see that you're trying to be a better person. Sometimes that's enough.
Oh, I don't want to see you take part in these challenges, Finn,
she said.
They are designed to hurt people. Nice people like you don't do well in places like this.
I just walked on hot ash, and you're worried about a little pain?
Finley teased, his light tone trying to minimize the nerves he felt.
Oh, these challenges are so much worse,
she said.
This pain is on the inside.
The interior of the Necromantion was unlike the rest of the building. Huge and tall, with painted walls and murals of ancient gods and goddesses. The room was ornate and lined with valuable items, the likes of which Finley had never seen before. Beautiful golden harps, vases filled with fiery red flowers, stacks of furniture and offerings. Like the inside of a church, rows and rows of wooden pews occupied the central space. Stained glass images of a man on fire lined the front of the room, horrific in their imagery. Tall stone columns held the roof aloft, depicting scenes from some mythology Finley didn't recognize. His ears came to life as an unfamiliar sound echoed from the rooms beyond, the light tapping like claws on a stone floor. He squeezed his battle-axe tightly and braced himself, walking carefully forward to greet the invader. From out of an opening beyond appeared something very unexpected. Roughly the size of a small horse, the hound was long and lithe and black as night, with long claws and a wagging tail. And most unusual of all, the animal had not one head, but 3, each one panting like an excited house pet as the tail drummed a beat onto the floor. Finley's eyes widened as he placed his reaper into the holster on his back, raising both hands up as the creature came to an abrupt stop in front of them.
Hey there, pup,
he soothed. All 3 heads cocked in one direction, floppy ears like those of a Labrador wiggling as it did so. Its eyes were dark brown and inquisitive, and tiny horns poked out from the fur on each of the heads, like those of a goat or mountainous sheep. Despite the obvious demonic quality to the animal, it didn't appear to be threatening.
I see you've met hell's goodest boy, Cerberus,
Abby said, rushing over to hug the animal's wide chest. The wagging of the dog's tail intensified as she ran her hands over its fur, stroking each of the heads in a subtly different way.
How are you, buddy? It's been a while.
Each of the heads barked in response, and Abby's smile only grew.
Hades brings him up to Psychopomp Drive to visit sometimes, she continued. Believe it or not, this fluffball is one of the guardians of the dead.
He isn't dangerous then?
Finley queried.
Oh, he's just about the most powerful and ferocious entity down here,
Abby quipped playfully.
But he's mostly used to keep souls in, not out.
The middle head barked at that. Evidently, he was proud of his role as one of the guardians of the gate. Tentatively, Finley reached out to the head closest to him and touched the fur, running his fingers through it delicately. The animal released a pleased whine, and the other heads moved to knock against him in search of attention. A rare smile spread across the Amarini's face as the animal shifted his weight to rest against him, and he cooed his praises as he ruffled the fur with both hands affectionately.
Oh,
I think he likes you.
Me and Thorn always wanted to have a dog,
Finley said, batting away the tongue of the middle head with a breathy laugh.
We planned on getting one after we got married, but,
He let the end of the sentence hang in the air between them as his smile became tinged with sadness. He sighed to himself. studying the creature in front of him fondly.
She would have loved to see this. Probably begged to take him home with us, too.
Thorn was her name, huh?
Abby said, reaching up to cup the face of the middle head with both hands.
I think she and I would have gotten along.
Definitely, Finley agreed. I wish you guys could have gotten the chance to meet her.
The pair raised their heads at Micah's shout, looking over to where the rest of the group were standing. The short woman was waving a hand in the air, beckoning them over.
Sorry, Pooch,
Finley apologized as he rose.
Duty calls.
Taking his place next to Scrappy, Finley bent forward to study the object that had captured each of their attentions. Inset into the floor was another bizarre symbol. The edges of it flared like the mark had been made with dark ink and a calligraphy brush. The eighth Amarini frowned.
What does it mean?
He questioned. Salo raised a paw, his claws extending outwards.
It's a sigil. The next challenge lies through here.
The silver-haired man's eyes narrowed as he studied the script.
Lies through where exactly?
He paused as the penny dropped.
You don't mean the floor, do you?
Saulo swiped at the mark, neatly severing 2 points that had previously been connected with ink, and Finley felt the floor go out from under them. He barely had the time to scream as he fell downwards into the dark pit, hands flailing wildly for something to grab a hold of. Purple markings on the walls around them flared to life, and he could see the silhouettes of the others reflected in its light. Beneath him, the fall seemed endless, and he held his breath as the invisible bottom rushed towards them. He stopped with a juddering halt in mid-air, bouncing in place like he had been snagged by an invisible net. He exhaled a soft "oof" as his backside gently hit the ground. Peeling himself off the hard stone, he walked towards where he had seen the others land, and let out a yelp as his face collided with a solid surface.
Oh! What the hell?
Blinking in surprise, he raised both hands to knock on the barrier. He could see Abby on the other side of it, and she jumped to her feet, hurrying over to place her hands next to his. Her green eyes widened in surprise.
What is this?
She asked, her voice muffled by whatever spell had separated them.
I'm guessing this is the next challenge,
Finley said. To be continued in Chapter 24.